Due to the graphic nature chosen for this topic, listener discretion is advised. In this episode, hosts Danny G and Kyle Austin had an open discussion where they talked about the Russian Ukraine conflict. We stand with Ukraine and honor the brave men and women that are standing up to the Russian government and are fighting for their freedom and right to democracy. Please remember, listener discretion is advised as we do get into some detail about the war. We hope we did our due diligence in honoring the brave men and women that are fighting for their freedom in the Ukraine and also honoring all the lives that are lost. Um, Again, we stand with Ukraine. We support them. We are praying for the Ukraine. We pray for peace. Thank you again for listening. This is a bonus episode. And remember, listener discretion is advised, and Paper Plate Media nor the Weekly D podcast are responsible for any comments said during this recording. Thank you. What's up, D fam? Welcome back to the greatest Pie City podcast in the world. I'm your host, Danny G. This is my incredible co-host, the amazing, the incredible Kyle Austin.
What's up?
And today we got a very, very, very important episode. It's a very crucial episode, and it's something that's happening right now in the world that we figured we really need to talk about.
Yes. So today we're going to be discussing the Russia versus Ukraine conflict, what's going on in the world right now. So before we get into that and before we kind of discuss it, I just want to kind of throw it out to the Twitter viewers or Twitch viewers that are going to be watching this, that viewer discretion is advised. We're going to be going over some controversial topics. We may get into some sensitive territory as well. So just keep that in mind while you're enjoying the stream. If you don't feel comfortable with that, feel free to skip this one today.
Yep. Sorry. Also for our audio listeners, because they're going to listen to this after.
Yeah, viewer discretion is advised.
Listener discretion.
If you don't feel comfortable talking about war, talking about death, talking about just the intensity of what could potentially be happening and unfolding, don't listen to this.
Yeah, we apologize, but this episode might not be for you.
Okay.
All right.
Well, shall we jump into it?
Let's go right into it, buddy. Let's drop the bomb on this thing.
So I guess as we talk, it's been about a week now since Russia first officially invaded Ukraine.
Day 5.
It is day 5. Oh my God. Feels like it's already been a long time at this point.
Bro, it's been a minute. It's been day 5 of invasion, but what, like 2 weeks in after they started?
I mean, just quietly, they've been just quietly, doing things here and there. And it's insane, you know what I mean? Like, I never thought I'd see this in our lifetime. Like, what did you expect, like, for us seeing, just so much at once? We got a pandemic. We could potentially have a world war in our hands. Like, it sounds crazy to say that because we've been joking about that for years, right? When things tend to happen, like Twitter does its best, things like that. We always joke about it,
bro.
But this time feels different. Like this feels a little bit weird, a little bit more real. This feels a little bit more intense. To just kind of go into what happened, Vladimir Putin, who is the current president of Russia, had decided that they wanted to go ahead and invade Ukraine to regain USSR territory that was lost during the collapse of the Soviet Union. This is not something that's new. This is something that has been happening for the past few years, as well as the invasion of Crimea, just as an example, which was about 2 years ago, I believe. He's been doing it kind of just to put it bluntly, he's been doing it very, very quietly, very tactically.
He's been low-key about it.
Yeah, this was the big one. So when it happened at night. It was the early mornings in Ukraine, and that's when the first bomb started to really drop. When that happened, it shook everything, because the thing was, right, Vladimir Putin at that point was no longer open to talking. What he was ready to do was just action at that point. He stated, and I quote, if there is anyone who tries to jump in, who tries to basically stand in the way or tries to intervene, they will face a fury that has never happened before.
Yeah.
So basically threatening war.
The world.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know
It's crazy.
why they decided to take it though? Like, have you
I mean,
researched?
from what I've
Because
noticed
I've
and from
seen
what I can
different
tell,
perspectives of it. I'm just curious what
a
you're.
lot of it, for one, it is former USSR territory,
Mm-hmm.
so it could be the fact that Russia and specifically Vladimir Putin and his governing, I guess, chairs
Yeah.
may believe that it is Russian territory, that it
Okay.
belongs to Russia, even
Mm-hmm.
though it's considered a free state. It has been a free place for quite a while now,
Yeah, it's been free since 1991.
which is crazy to think. Like, but
It's not
that's
that
part of it.
long when you think
There's a
about it.
very open trade route as well,
Mm-hmm.
with the Black Sea right there,
Yep.
kind of that goes
It's a
around
good port.
between a lot of European countries like Romania, going into like the bottom where you see like Turkey as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of trade, obviously. So that's always beneficial for people as well.
Yeah.
Not to mention they hold a, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't know if this changed, but I know at one point Ukraine held some of the most in terms of nuclear power as a whole, outside
Yeah.
of Russia, basically.
So they're also the number one producers in the turbines to keep the nuclear reactors cold,
Hmm.
and they are some of the top producers for nuclear reactor parts.
Hmm.
So pretty much they help make the shelling for the nuclear reactors. They they make the fans to keep it cool, and they make the cooling systems. They also have huge natural resources like iron ores, manganese, uranium, pretty much the shit you need to make a bomb. They have it,
Hmm.
and naturally, right? They have ores for it. They're also the second and third producers in barley, wheat, and rye. Which, if you're American, you should worry about that because that's everything that we use to make beer.
Beer, whiskey,
Everything,
like,
bread.
yeah,
Like
any kind of
they
alcohol,
are some of the top
grains.
producers for the world. So just remember that second and third. They're also the fourth largest producer of potatoes. They produce tons of vegetables and shit like that for the entire world. But they also, like I said, I see their interest of Russia knowing that they have uranium, manganese, and iron.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I find it's really interesting that they actually went through with it because, like you said, it was old USSR, but it's
Hmm.
also one of the last pieces that keeps a border between Russia and Europe and the NATO
Yep.
countries.
Yep. Yes, it is
Yep.
actually. And this is kind of where we go into some territory of the conversation of, well, since this has happened, right, and the potential of like, you know, Putin potentially stepping over in his grounds and potentially going, over the border per se to into Poland, into Romania, and officially invading. What's stopping that, right? And that's a question I think a lot of people are having right now. And so the conversation kind of starts with NATO, right? So we're going into NATO. One thing, so NATO is basically a massive group of countries that have
Mm-hmm.
come together to basically keep each other in check. As is the best way to put it.
What does it
They
stand for? The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, right?
believe that's correct. Let me find my phone.
All right,
Sorry, I'm trying to
our
keep my
producers
phone.
can look it up. Our producers can look it up. That's what we pay them for. So if one
Yeah,
of our
we pay
producers
them
would
the
be
big bucks for it.
kind
That's right.
to look that up for us, that would be greatly
Um,
appreciated.
but with that being said, so what's happening right now is, uh, so they're still invading at this point. As far as we're aware, as of today, there was peace talks earlier,
Yeah.
but from what we've been hearing through the grapevine, with certain news sources and certain media saying that there's still bombs being dropped, there's still shells being
Mm-hmm.
shot off. There's pretty much no sign that those agreements have been settled.
So,
Um,
from what I saw was that this morning they agreed on a ceasefire because the Ukrainian president was demanding a ceasefire, and he's trying to neutralize this, right? He doesn't want war. War is costly for any country that's involved. War is costly.
mhm.
They're a small country, but they're very powerful and proud a country. Like Ukraine is very they have one of the most badass armies in the world, and they're showing it. But
Big time.
war is costly, and obviously they're trying to have peace with Russia, and so they had a ceasefire up until I think 2 o'clock our time, And I think it was a few hours after the ceasefire. Like as soon as the delegates took off, there was explosions right after that. So obviously
Yeah.
there was an agreement. They said they agreed on some things, but there was too much empty space there that was not agreed on. Also, thank you, producer Chris. He said it's the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So I was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was correct. So basically, from here, why is it NATO stepping in? That's the question that a lot of people tend to have, right? Why don't they step in? There's a couple reasons, just to put in perspective. We'll talk about some of the actual legitimate reasons that is kind of halting things. First and foremost, they do not want war. Nobody wants war right now. At the end of the day, the last thing that the world needs is a nuclear war. And that's what could potentially happen if Russia were to step onto, European land and officially start it.
Yeah.
So the thing is, okay, what are we hearing now? We're seeing Ukraine and Russia agreed to continue talks after first round of negotiations in Belarus concluded with no deal on Monday. So that was today. Fighting and missile attacks continue in multiple cities, and Ukraine's ambassador to the U.S. accused Russia of using a vacuum bomb. Putin told French President Emmanuel Macron he'll stop strikes against civilian targets, according to LSC. Yeah. And then President Zelensky has asked the European Union to fast-track Ukraine's entry into the bloc. So I'm assuming they're trying to get...
They're trying to get into NATO.
They're trying to get into NATO. They've been trying. That's the thing. They have been trying to get into NATO for a while now.
Yeah. I think
but to go back...
It's been the past 9 years they've been trying to get into it.
But
yeah, it's
there's obvious reason that shows us to why that's not been the case.
It's an unfortunate reason too, right? Like...
Yeah,
it kind of sucks because they're in the middle ground that they don't want to be in. They just happen to be there, and NATO's like, all right, we'll support you by giving you guns and weapons and whatever you need, but no troops, no air force, no. We're not stepping in. We're just giving you stuff. Yeah, like that's kind of shitty.
We're gonna help where we can. Basically, was kind of the thought process. But to go again as to why NATO isn't stepping in, first and foremost. Certain European countries such as Italy, France, as well as there's Italy, France, and I can't remember the name off. I think it's probably Ireland or something. I don't remember off the top of my head, but Italy and France specifically, and Germany. I'm sorry, Italy, France, Germany. All of them actually do want to step in, and they've stated that they do. But Russia controls the majority of their gas, their gasoline, and they actually will, technically speaking, because they're such a mass producer, could do what's being done and basically sink those economies because of the
and they're already fragile
need.
Economies. That's the problem. Like with all those countries, Italy, Germany, like they're very, very, very fragile economies, especially after COVID. Like they are hurting, and for Russia to just screw them over like that, it's gonna do some really, really bad economic damage to all these countries.
Yeah. So as an example of some of the things that are being done, and one of the reasons, like I said, we brought up Germany, is Germany wanted to put sanctions, so that's what's happening right now with a lot of NATO countries, is NATO countries like the U.S. And other places are actually utilizing, they're actually trying to utilize sanctions, which are heavy taxes, basically the equivalent of that, putting more heavy taxes on trade. Basically, the goal is to sink their economy, make it very difficult for the Russian people, which is unfortunate because it's not the fault of the Russian people. It's the fault of Vladimir Putin and his regime and organization, right? But the thing is with that, sanctions have already been stated that they will not deter him from continuing what he's wanting to do, if he's not really going to feel it realistically, because he is in a state of very high power. But the Russian people will.
But do you feel like Putin's slipping? Like I don't know. I've heard this word conspiracy. I've heard a lot of shit about him right lately. But it seems like he came in to Ukraine thinking he's gonna steamroll them and take them out no problem, and he's had a little bit of pushback. Probably a lot more pushback than what he was expecting.
It's a lot of pushback,
and it's making him look a little weak, especially now where he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna activate my nukes." Like he's showing that his little guy is
But that's the question. That's the question at hand, though, right? Is he really losing it, or is it something that where he's not? Because like people also bring up the idea that he's potentially utilizing it as a strategy. Because in the meantime, while he's invading somewhere else and maybe not doing the best job at it, a bigger country like China, for instance, not saying that they're doing that, but a bigger country like China could go ahead and reclaim a few places that they've taken. For instance, Taiwan. For instance, parts of Hong Kong, which are more, pushing to be more of a sovereign state, a sovereign country of its own, right? Not really necessarily wanting to be tied with China. China could go in and take that quietly.
Yeah,
they haven't shown up. They haven't shown up to a good portion of these conversations. When it comes to
honestly, like, just think about it though. Like, if that's the card they're playing, genius. But I don't think Putin was that calculated with his attack on Ukraine, because he took Chernobyl, steamrolled Chernobyl.
He did.
But once it came to Kyiv and like all the other big cities in Ukraine, like, Ukraine ain't playing, man. I think
he's had trouble.
I feel like he really underestimated the power of the people and the honor the people have, and like the love for their country and the love of their freedoms that they have.
Not to mention the amount of Russian citizens who are furious at what's going on.
Yeah, they
it's
don't
a war.
want.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants part of that. And the fact that they're getting sanctioned, like the U.S. already put a ban on doing business with Russian companies. Like, that's gonna hurt them. I'm sure Donald Trump's pissed all over there in Mar-a-Lago right now, because he's gonna have to shut down whatever Trump hotel he has down there. But I mean,
any kind of Russian business will be shut down. And it's sad for the people, but things have to be done to alleviate all of this, right? Yeah. When a person of power steps out of bounds, right?
Yeah.
You feel it. You have to feel it. That's, I guess, the way to put it.
But
they're gonna take big steps, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna swing. Like, they're used to they're used to swinging a big dick for an analogy, and right now, like, they're swinging. But
right now,
it's showing that it's not that big.
Right. And the thing is, to go into it, it's still a very tactical move, right? Because they did take specific pieces of Ukraine right now that they still technically have control over right now. Yeah. For instance, I believe it's the that area upon the sea, which is very important for trade to get ships and vessels through Ukraine, as well as taking Chernobyl. Who knows?
Which I'm curious what's there.
Hasn't been, who knows what documentation hasn't been pulled out of it.
Yeah, because
it actually is technically safe to go to.
But the reactor's still there.
The reactor is still there, but people don't know this. But Chernobyl is actually, for the most part, as long as you're not getting too close to the core, it's relatively safe. Even without a mask.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. The core's still there, and it's covered in lead, isn't it? Like they filled it with lead. The hole it fell into.
They tried to.
Yeah,
they tried to, and I think they some of them got successful, but they could barely get helicopters over there. So at the time of Chernobyl, when that nuclear reactor happened, when they were trying to do it, it would get so hot and so much radiation that anybody who was basically going to go over there and dump it was pretty much dead.
Oh, okay.
So they had to do it fast, quick, and basically they wouldn't feel it, but they'd die of radiation poisoning pretty much a few days after. Which is brutal, by the way.
Yeah, that's insane.
I highly recommend, if you're curious, it's just not related, but if you're ever curious of seeing what happened at Chernobyl in a very detailed manner, definitely check out it's like a docu-series called Chernobyl on HBO. It's phenomenal.
Is it? I never watched it. I wanted to watch it. I just
more of it's a docu-series, kind of I would explain it as it's documenting what happened, but it's done by actors.
Okay, it's a dramatization.
Dramatization.
Okay.
What's kind of going on?
That sounds pretty dope.
But yes.
So our producer just gave us some quick facts on the sanctions. They said Russia was scrambling to prevent financial meltdown Monday as its economy was slammed by a broadside of crushing Western sanctions imposed over the weekend in response to the invasion of Ukraine.
The Russian central bank more than doubled interest rates up to 20%, and the Moscow Stock Exchange was shuttered for the day. It was actually shut down for the day. Like they did not bring
Yeah,
this back up. It will stay closed on Tuesday as well, and
bro, that's
the Central Bank of
wild,
Russia announced
bro.
allowing people to not trade their funds.
The
Uh,
last one though. The United States also banned U.S. dollar transactions with the Russian central bank in a move designed to prevent it from accessing its rainy day fund. Senior U.S. administration officials said. Like, do you understand that? Like,
yeah.
they are shutting them down economically. They are
Mm-hmm.
doing. They're trying to put them into a depression. To be honest, like that's the goal, right? To
Mm-hmm.
to economically damage them sanction them so much where they owe so much money to every other country they can't afford to do anything. But funny known fact, when Germany in World War II invaded Poland,
Mm-hmm.
they were also in a Great Depression. They were completely broke. They actually couldn't afford weapons. They had
Yeah.
tanks with no missiles. Just
Very,
fun
very
fact.
broke.
The more you know.
Uh, so it's nuts, like to think about it too, kind of going into more as we discuss what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So that's happening, but we have to keep in mind, I guess, at the end of the day, that when you back an animal into a cage, it's going
It's
to do
gonna
one of
bite.
two things. It's going to cower in fear or run,
Mm-hmm.
or it's going to fight for its life. What will Vladimir Putin do? That is the big question, right?
That's
And
the
so
scary
far,
part because he activated
so
his nukes. He's moving them to
yeah,
Belarus or
and
wherever other
so
country.
far, realistically speaking, because he's still having conversations
Mm-hmm.
and trying to build on what to do next, he's not backing down just yet.
Yeah.
But like I said, once you start backing a desperate animal into a corner, it's gonna act one way or another.
Well,
The question
it's
is,
just
it's
like the
still undecided
Ukraine,
of what's gonna happen.
but it's just like the Ukraine, right? They backed them up into their own territory and they fought back. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we've
The
had
thing is, too, we have to understand that this war is, at least this small war that's happening right now between Ukraine and Russia, is not over. They're still
no, no,
fighting,
no, no, but they're fighting and they're
and
gonna
any.
hold. They're gonna hold as long as they can. I'm
Mhm.
sure of it. And hopefully NATO steps in at some point. But I mean, we gotta respect the pride that these people
Mhm.
have. I mean, their president, he's on the floor. He's on the ground, with troops and stuff.
Mhm.
There's been reports of it. And the crazy part is that president doesn't need to do that. He
Mhm.
was a comedian and an actor before he became president. He
Mhm.
It was like literally like if Trump became president and decided, you know what, I'm gonna fight with the boys, right?
Mhm.
Like that's wild. That's super
Well,
honorable. And then you
you just
have
don't see that in this like time. It just doesn't
bro,
happen.
but
But
it's
it's
more than
happening.
just one. There's a famous boxer. I forgot his name.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's a big MMA fighter, actually. I
no,
think.
he's a boxer. He's a
Yeah.
world champion boxer that
I know
went
he's
back.
a general, right?
Yeah, so the crazy thing was, I hate that I can't remember his name. Please, someone look it up. But he's a world champion boxer from the Ukraine. When shit started popping off, he grabbed his family, flew them to a safe location, and then came back and said, I'm gonna fight for my people. I'm gonna fight for my country."
Hmm.
Like that's super honorable. I wish I knew his name right now. It's really bugging
Yeah.
me that I don't, because
Um.
that's like a man's man, dude. That's something to all of them should be war heroes. I mean, the Ghost of Kiev. I hope they
Yeah.
don't announce who he is anytime soon. But after the war, I hope he does get his due diligence and gets honored for his amazing fighting.
If he survived,
If he survived, there's
is
also
it?
an actress. I can't remember her name either, but she's also like an actress, a model, and she's out there fighting.
Yeah.
Like kudos to Ukraine, bro, and the people they have. They're such badasses. Like they're
Very
so
strong individuals.
honorable, very strong, and I understand it. They're fighting for democracy. Like think
Right.
about that. Think about being the age you are right now and having to fight for your freedom.
Hmm.
Like, would
Well, I
you
mean,
buck up or would you
yeah.
bail? I mean,
That's the big question, right? Like, it's one of those situations where you kind of, like you said, they got backed into a corner and they had to make a decision on what was going to happen next.
mm-hmm,
They did, President Zelensky did state that nobody from, I think it was 45 and below, men, like that was a man, was going to leave the country because they
mm-hmm,
needed the numbers. They need people to be fighting.
yeah,
Um, so I know to a point, after a point, it became a necessity. People
uh-huh,
had to do it. If they couldn't leave, and they couldn't, or didn't have a legitimate reason as to why. Um, but they're fighting hard. They're fighting hard, and it's really
yeah,
showing what they can do.
mm-hmm,
You can definitely see that that there's weakness in the Russian like fighters,
Yeah.
Russian soldiers. I don't know if you've seen some of the TikToks and stuff that have been popping through, because realistically, as of now, like, this is just kind of what it is.
Yeah.
But they stated that originally they thought it was just going to be exercises.
Yeah. I saw
happen.
a TikTok of some paratroopers, and they're just like laughing the whole time, joking around while they're invading Ukraine. They had no idea what the fuck they were doing. They were literally recording a TikTok while they're
They didn't
skydiving.
realize what was going on.
Yeah, and one of the dudes is like, "Oh, we're going to and like in his own language, right?" But he was just psyched about it, and then they realized, "Oh shit! Like we're fucking them up.
We're going to war."
Yeah. Oh, and our producers figured out the names of the boxer I was talking about. It's actually two guys. It's Vitaly and Wiedemar Klitschko. I hope I'm saying that right.
Vitaly Klitschko.
Yeah, they gave us a quick little fact that says they are sons of Soviet Major General. Both are former heavyweight champions. Whenever one was fighting in the ring, the other one was helping in the corner. Vitaly is also the mayor of Kiev. Kiev.
No, wow.
That's are fighting so with crazy. People. And they're on the ground fighting with their people, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I will say, I do. It is interesting to see how well they're fighting. With really, like we've given supplies, right? NATO's been able to reach out and give supplies, but we really have provided no support.
Besides for supplies. A reason. But little known fact is Ukraine actually has one of the most badass militaries.
Yeah.
Like they are one of the most trained militaries. And they're one of those countries where when you turn 18, you serve your military. Like you serve your
Which
country.
There's a lot of countries that's the situation. I know in Korea, that's the situation. I think most Koreans, South Koreans specifically, they go to war.
Yeah.
Not go to war, but they have to serve the military, I think, for like 4 years.
Israel and Palestine, I'm sure some of them do.
North Korea definitely. But it's not really a badge of honor.
Did you hear about Kim Jong-un trying to shoot a missile to Japan?
Got closer and closer.
Yeah. Honestly, out of everybody that are possibly going to war with, Iraq and North Korea are the least of my worries because it seems like they can't figure out how to launch a missile.
Well, it's not really Iraq we're necessarily worried about. We're worried about Pakistan. Pakistan and North Korea taking
because they got WMDs, but WMDs were a lie in Pakistan and all those Middle Eastern countries.
Yeah, it's not really, but necessarily too. It's not really them like as separate. It's everyone as a group, right?
Yeah.
So let's say hypothetically speaking, what could happen is Vladimir Putin and Russia do have allies. Their allies are North Korea, Pakistan. I think it's like quite a few different European countries that are like smaller. China being the biggest one, with one of the biggest armies, because they have the most population, which could definitely cause some problems.
That one's scary because they got numbers.
They got a lot of people. Now, do they have the equipment?
Probably not. I don't know. Probably
strong possibility. They're moving in a different direction economically.
It's Chinese equipment made with Chinese parts.
Yeah.
Have you seen a Chinese bearing roll? It doesn't last very long. I think we have a chance.
But regardless, we and Danny had a conversation, I guess, earlier, a couple of days ago, talking about how we're representing as a whole, and when we're looking at it from the standpoint of propaganda, right? So propaganda, for people that don't know, is a way to incentivize and showcase the power that your country holds, or the evils, quote unquote evils, that other countries possess, right? Happens all the time. It happened in World War II, happened in World War I, happened during the Civil War. It happens all the time, right? Now the conversation is, how are we showcasing or being represented as members of NATO to people that are not members of NATO? When we're talking about it, and I had this conversation, I brought this up to Danny, and I think a lot of the reasons why we haven't stepped in make sense. But to a lot of powers, especially powers that are watching very closely, we look weak. I think we look weak.
I think that that's opinion. In my eyes, war is a big chess game, right? Like, you got to be strategic on how you move. You got to think not one step. You can't be reactionary. You got to be a couple steps ahead.
But the reason I say that, right, is because there are quite a few countries within NATO, as an example, that unfortunately are tied to a Russian economy.
Mm-hmm.
The Russian economy is a necessity for them. As an example, France, Italy, and Germany, as I spoke of earlier, um, they cannot move even if they wanted to,
Yeah.
and they want to. Like Germany has stated they want to put sanctions and fight with them, like fight with
Yeah.
the rest of NATO to put sanctions and to stop what's happening, but they
Mm-hmm.
cannot do it for
Yeah.
fear that their economy will collapse. That
Doesn't
is a sign of
Germany
weakness.
doesn't Germany owe a certain percentage of something to Russia ever since World War II?
They owe a lot of money in general.
But specifically to Russia, like Russia
The possibility.
controls their economy like 80%. I forget what it is, but I think
Well,
it's
it's
like
because Russia did
80%.
this whole flip flop thing. At first,
Yeah,
Joseph
yeah.
Stalin and stuff like at the time was part of, part of the Axis powers, and
Hmm.
eventually they flipped and jumped back onto our side.
Yeah, yeah. No, I don't
And
remember what it is, but I
who
know
knows?
they own like 80% of Germany's economy.
Mm-hmm.
So even if Germany wanted to sneeze or protest, like they can't,
You
because
can do anything.
they'll be destroyed economically.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, kind of when it comes to that, like that to me does show weakness, especially to somebody who can do it on a dime if he wants to.
Yeah.
Right.
I,
That is all political play and political power, and that showcases what real political power looks like. Um, because we see it. The thing with Americans, right? And this is when we talk about Americans as a whole, because we're gonna be speaking as two Americans that are speaking, right? We think very close minded in the sense that we think about politics in the way Americans view politics.
yeah,
We don't necessarily think about the way that politics work outside of the US. So
that's true.
when something were to happen, like let's say hypothetically what's happening with, that used to happen with Brexit as an
Hmm.
example between Boris Johnson and like a few other things that were going on, like from like the conservative standpoint, going against
Yeah.
what's happening with between the Taliban and then that governing body at the time. We
Hmm.
don't understand that. We
That
don't
is
get it.
true.
We see things as a good versus evil, but that's not necessarily how it works.
Yeah.
People think, oh, how could this happen? How could somebody invade a country? You know, the thing is, it's been happening. It happens in
It
Lebanon.
happens all the
It's still,
time.
it's
There's
still
literally
happening.
countries that have been at war since the day they started being a country.
Yes,
I
countries
mean,
in
that's
the East,
fact.
like going into like Europe, things like that. They
Religious
have this
wars
war is not
all the
new.
time. Yeah.
War is not new.
Yeah.
It has still been occurring even when people thought that was the case.
Uh huh.
Um, and regardless, I guess of it, I guess my to go into it, I think it's one of those things that as American viewers, it's very tough for us to comprehend what's going on right now. But we have to see it from the perspective of other European countries who have faced this before,
Yeah.
right?
But does it seem weak? I mean, that's my question because,
I think
to
I
be
think that
honest, England doesn't want to step in. England's also a big powerhouse.
Boris Johnson actually is wanting to step
Is
in,
he?
but the governing body surrounding it does not want to.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you gotta think, dude. It's literally a chess game, right? When you
Mm-hmm.
play chess, you can't make the move that's reactionary or the first move you think of, right? You gotta think three,
Mm-hmm.
4 steps ahead because if you make one wrong move, like literally what it looks like is happening in Russia and Ukraine, where Putin shot the gun instead of thinking 2, 3 steps ahead,
Mm-hmm.
it bites you in the ass, right?
I
Because
mean,
now his
yeah,
country's getting
absolutely.
sanctioned. He's getting put up for war crimes. Like there's hits on him all over the place now. But
Mm-hmm.
NATO is standing back because the way I see it, and I could be completely wrong. Like you said, we see it through the American side. But the way I see it is that like they're letting Russia do what they want because they know Ukraine's got it. And they're gonna let Ukraine have it for a little while until Russia seems to overpower it. Because all what's happening right now and what we're seeing is Russia is spending resources and energy, and they don't have the money to spend the resources. If you look, there's tons of vehicles and there's tons of equipment that they're just abandoning on the warfield because they can't afford to put gas in their freaking car.
Mm-hmm.
Like you let Russia burn itself out. I mean, at least that's what it
It's a
seems like.
it's all a tactical game, right?
It's a game. It's honestly a game. I mean, Russia has a 40-mile convoy, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
headed to the Ukraine to try to
Right, like,
refuel
as we speak, right?
and
Correct.
refeed people because they ran out of all the supplies because they thought within the first 2 days they were gonna bull rush Ukraine and take it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you're playing a chess game, wouldn't you sit back and let him take one pawn, so they can step in too far and then take them out with your knight or your king?
Potentially, but the thing that we have to think of is you're also playing another chess player, somebody who
Exactly.
understands the game,
But
right?
you can
And
understand the
it's
game and
exactly
still
the
make a
same. Well,
mistake.
because hypothetically speaking, let's just want to say this as an example, just to if history were to repeat itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which it potentially tends to, right? Yeah, just it does more than it doesn't. When we look
Mm-hmm.
at examples, I mean, it's exactly the tactics that were used, and I'm talking like war game tactics, were used very similarly to how Adolf, Hitler as himself actually took as many countries as he did, leading to the invasion of Poland.
But he had no money, and they
But
let him
even but
take it
even then,
because no
but
one
even
stepped
then,
in.
Poland is what kicked it off. At the end of the day, the war did not start until Poland was invaded. The moment that happened, what did America do at the time? We stepped back. We didn't like what was happening, but we were not going to get involved. We didn't want to get
Exactly.
involved because at that point, it's going to be too expensive for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not our problem anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens? If history were to repeat itself, I'm just speaking hypothetically
Yeah.
here.
But
The next logical step is for the remaining allies of Russia to
mm-hmm.
step in and take what they need
Mm-hmm.
while the world is busy on one country. The next big step would be setting and also sending an important message.
Mm-hmm.
That message would be to NATO. Where they would hit, I don't know. Could be the United States. Pearl Harbor was an example of that
It
back in the
was.
day. They wanted to send a message. They wanted it
Mm-hmm.
to be very clear and very important that you cannot fuck with their people, basically.
Yeah.
But
But
what
they
they
learned.
did, as they stated themselves, they woke a sleeping giant. America stepped in,
And they
and
got
America
leveled.
nuked Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
That's what I'm saying. They got leveled. We
Yes.
said, hold
Now,
our beer. We about to fuck some shit up.
now the question is, this is 1940. This is the 1940s, right? We had a lot less technology at the time. We have come very far in
Yeah.
nuclear technology at this point. We do not want what
No, we
comes.
don't need it. Right? We don't want it. We don't need it. But the
But
U.S.
if
is also
history, like I
prepared.
said, if history were to repeat itself, this is not out of the question.
No, no,
Ukraine
no.
is just the first step at that point
Yeah.
in a bigger problem
I mean,
that could potentially
yeah,
occur.
I agree. I agree. But we also won in World War II. Why? Because we let them exhaust their resources, and then we leveled them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But we didn't let them exhaust the resources on purpose. We just didn't want to remain involved politically
Well,
speaking.
yeah, but you
Like
stay out of it.
they exhausted their resources on their own.
Think about it this way.
They did it by themselves.
Think about it this way. If, let's say, you get in a fight, right? And there's 3 people. Your best chance of winning a fight is running and letting them hoping they tire themselves out before they whoop your ass, right?
Or you just run away and get away from them.
Or you run away and you hope a homie comes in and helps you out. That's what Ukraine's doing right now, right? But they're not running away. They're standing toe to toe and taking knocks on the head from all 3 people,
They're
right?
taking it hard.
They're taking it hard, but they're fighting back, right? It's like a little kid versus his big ass bully. But sooner or later, Big Brother's gonna come in and back you up. I mean, but by that time,
You hope that's what'll
by
happen.
that time, why does Big Brother kick his ass? It's because he already tired himself out. He already used resources and energy to try to take on the little guy and got fucked up.
My thought process, like you said, tactically speaking, it makes no sense realistically for us to jump in right now.
Yeah.
As a whole, NATO as a whole, not just the U.S., but as a whole, NATO. If NATO steps in the moment it happens, we're involved, and that's everybody. Every single member of NATO at that point is now involved, and so that's what they're trying to prevent, right? Even still,
Yeah.
even though the thing is, we've been kind of going around the rules a little bit, with them knowing that's kind of what we're doing by providing weapons,
Yeah.
by providing aid, by providing sanctions.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like I said, we've had this conversation. Vladimir Putin has deemed that an act of war.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, will he act? Now, that's the question that is scary to me personally. I fear what could potentially happen and unfold.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because, I mean, realistically, they could just drop something in the middle of the night. Nobody expecting
But
it.
so here's the other thing though: the U.S. actually has anti-missile setups where they use satellites and towers across the world on different islands to shoot missiles down.
Sure. But does Poland?
So I mean, Poland doesn't. Poland.
Does Romania? Does Istanbul?
I
The other
mean, but
members of
here's the
NATO?
thing: if they hit NATO, they're gonna get the wrath of NATO. Like,
Like,
and unfortunately, that would be World War III, right? But I don't think they have the resources to do it. They're gonna need their allies to step up and take over Taiwan. They're gonna need
mhm.
North Korea to start, flustering some feathers to create
And that's the
a
thing we haven't been
distraction.
seeing yet is we haven't seen them the real, at least not in the media's eye, right?
Yeah,
Who knows what they're doing behind the scenes because we can't see it, right?
yeah.
Why would we be able to see it? Why would the media openly like? That's not
I
the
mean,
media's fault,
they don't
right?
want you to see it. They
They're
don't.
reporting on this. The
Yeah,
media can only show you one part,
yeah.
right? And right now, like I can tell you, they're making like now it's full certainty, right? This
Yeah,
isn't. This is just a thought process and just a theory, but I can. They're probably having conversations.
yeah.
They probably have an idea of what they're potentially going to do next. I don't think it will come from Russia. I think it will come from
Mm-hmm.
another ally.
Which in that aspect, it's kind of scary because I don't know if you paid attention to what happened in South America last year, but the rise of
Mhm.
socialism and communism was on an all-time high.
Yeah.
In South America, there's been tons and tons of fights in Chile and Peru and Bolivia and Argentina, where
Hmm.
the citizens are fighting their governments because socialism's starting to creep in, and they're trying to turn a lot of those countries into communisms. Which,
Hmm.
in that aspect, I would be worried, right, if South America got involved with Russia and whatnot, because they're right below us. Like,
Certain South American countries for sure.
yeah, yeah, and we know South American countries don't like us. I mean, there's a
We
lot of
got we
countries.
got El Salvador who loves Bitcoin enough to leave us alone.
Bro, I mean, they got Bitcoin, but like
Yeah,
Venezuela,
Nayib is badass. That president
yeah,
is fucking
but
awesome.
but Venezuela's not cool with us, and they owe Russia $3.5 billion.
Yeah, but
Cuba
their
owes,
bolivars, what is it worth?
but that's what I'm saying though. Like they're in debt to Russia for a long time. Cuba
Yeah,
owes them 3.2 billion. Like
I guess they could use
those
their forces to
those are the countries
slow
we
down
need to
the
be
debts.
worried about if we pop off World War III, right?
Yeah, yeah, and
But
people aren't talking about Cuba. That's the thing. People are bringing up only the big fighters, right? They're bringing up Pakistan. They're bringing up North Korea. They're
yeah,
bringing up China. They don't really talk about
but
some of those smaller
because
countries
because those
that
countries
potentially
are
could
so
be a big
poor.
problem for the U.S.
Well, because those countries are so poor, right? But we don't know if Russia's had stuff there since the Cold War. That's the only part that's worrisome, to be honest, because they're fighting on that side, and we're going to stay out of fighting on that side as long as we can, as the U.S.,
Yeah,
obviously.
as militias, by the way, which is a cool thing that you see, since Zelensky was like, "Hey, you guys should help us if you want."
Hmm.
A lot of Americans are actually trying to go to Ukraine.
Well,
There's a good portion of them fighting in militias.
I don't know if you know this. The U.S. produces the most privatized militias in the world.
Hmm.
Like we
Yeah,
we have hitmen for any reason.
yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they're taking some dope and some cash and just going down there and be like, all right,
Let's
let's stir
go.
some shit up. I
Yeah,
mean, that's the crazy thing about war. You see two big countries fighting, but you don't really see the small little
small
people
factions and
that
stuff.
that are
Guerrilla warfare has been
yeah
something that's been happening for a long time.
for a
It
very
happens a
long
lot in
time.
South America, as just an example.
Yeah, but the U.S. has so many privatized military people that all they're
Hmm.
looking for is a check. They don't care what side they're fighting for,
Hmm.
as long as they're getting paid. I mean, they're golden. So I mean,
So,
it's crazy. It is a crazy time to be alive,
mhm.
especially for like our generation and our age, where we've lived through part of the Gulf War. We've had 9/11. We fought in Iraq. We've had a bunch of our friends fight in Iraq.
Mhm.
We've had COVID. Like we've had so many things hit us,
Yeah.
and I mean, obviously, World War III is not ideal. Like we don't want that, but in another way, war has been known to increase U.S. economy.
War is expensive, but it is very profitable
It is
if you
extremely
win. If you
profitable.
win the
Yeah, if you
war,
lose,
that
you're
is.
you're screwed.
Your country's in turmoil at that point. But
Yeah.
yes, war is usually very profitable for the winners. I thought there's actually a study that shows that a lot of millionaires were made
in war.
during the cusp of World War One and World War Two.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of privatized military personnel that will fight on either side as long as they're collecting the check, right? Like, that's all they want. And on the flip side, like, there's a lot of money to be made in war as long as you're winning. And in the past, the U.S. has always sat it out, let them fight, and then go in and be like, all right, we're gonna help you out now, but at the end of this war, after we win, you're gonna owe us so much oil, so much money, so much natural resources.
It's all part of it.
It's all business at the end of the day. But
yeah,
I mean, Putin fighting the fight he's fighting, I don't think he's got it, bro.
I still think we need to be worried.
I mean, yeah, but let's be
that's
worried.
where I disagree. Like, I think we should be very aware and very hyper vigilant of what's going on. Like I said, I think you put a dog in a cage, I guess it's gonna be one of two things, and I've repeated that when I said that, like, and I mean it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's either gonna fight, or it's going to cower in fear and give up.
I don't think he's gonna back off.
Don't just because there's one coyote in the cage doesn't mean there's not a pack of dogs waiting to bite you.
The other thing that's scary, the other thing that's worrisome about Putin is that he has lost a lot of following within his own regime. So he's right now trying. I mean, he's trying to grasp power, right? Show that he has power. Show that he's Big Dick Daddy from Russia, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's the most worrisome part, because you don't know how he's gonna react. Like, you don't know what he's gonna do. He's trying to prove power, and right now it seems like he's slipping. Yep. And him activating his nukes seems like he's slipping even more. And I mean, they took away his black belt. Like, they're taking stuff away from him.
They took away his black belt.
Dude, to him, that was a huge deal. I remember when he got his black belt. It was a huge deal. He had a whole ceremony and everything in this country.
But even if the black belt was taken away, he still has a black belt. Like, he could still fight the equivalent. It doesn't magically take the powers away.
Hold on. But does he have a black belt, or does he have a Steven Seagal black belt? Because, I mean, that...
I think he's Russian KGB. Before he was in power, he probably has.
I mean, he probably is a badass. But his best friend Steven Seagal. I don't know if you saw it. Ukraine banned Steven Seagal from entering their country.
I get that. You know, I don't even want Steven Seagal in our country.
I wouldn't either. He's best friends with Kim Jong-un and Putin. There's something up there.
It's a strange man. Sending Chuck Norris.
Yes,
Alan Chuck Norris is in his 80s.
So
he's made of steel, but there's only so much that can be done.
Only Chuck Norris can save us.
And Chuck Norris and all of our other aging
let's
action stars.
Chuck Norris, Clint Eastwood.
We can bring in Dwayne the Rock Johnson and John Cena.
There we go. That's
you'll
really
never be able to
need.
see John Cena coming.
That's really all we need is Dwayne the Rock Johnson dropping the people's elbow on Putin, and John Cena just sneak attacking them because you can't see him.
What's your name? It doesn't matter what your name is.
Dude, imagine that if our governments were just ran by wrestlers.
Arnold Austrian. He's got to side with somebody.
Arnold's gonna be like, "Get to the chopper, get down,
get to the chopper, get down." What a great!
Oh my God!
I miss hearing from that guy.
Right? What's he up to? Where's Arnie at?
He's doing something with Logan Paul. They're doing actually, speaking of Russian, I think they're hosting a slap contest like that originally started in Russia, but they're both hosting like a giant slap competition.
Oh shit, dude! Imagine getting slapped by prime Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, dude.
Like steroid up, just wow.
Well, apparently there's this guy. He's like Samoan, and apparently he's like the top contender, like in the U.S. at least. And this guy's a monster. It's like just his hands just like twice the size of everybody else.
You know what makes me laugh?
You're gone.
The slap competition is just like watching the arm wrestling competitions. You know those guys are busy at night because they always have one arm way bigger than the other arm.
Well, not to mention, I mean, you've seen like those accidents happen where they just misplace the way that they do it, and their arm just breaks in the middle of the competition.
No. But it's so funny because they're jacked on one arm, like they're Quagmire coming out of a 2-month porn binge, and they're super skinny with the other arm.
Yeah. Well, they're training, my friend. Training.
Yeah, training day.
But yeah, I guess overall, kind of go back into it. it's going to be touchy. The next few weeks are going to be very telling on where we go from here.
Yeah.
Weird thing is the stock market and the current crypto market actually zoomed the
They
fuck
boomed, yeah.
up, boomed hard,
Yeah.
like out of nowhere. After dropping
Let's
20%, it's back up. I
go.
think over I think it's close. It's not over 20% yet. I think it's touching like 10%, like right
Yeah.
around there.
I mean, honestly,
But
I
it's
wouldn't be
recovering.
surprised if Bitcoin gets some sort of weird sanction or some sort of weird like
They can't
government.
sanction anything decentralized.
I don't. But so here's my thing, right? Think about it. There's a lot of millionaires in Russia that are part of the regime.
Vitalik Buterin is Russian, the guy who created Ethereum.
But that's what I'm saying. If their shit's getting seized up, right? Through sanctions, like what are they just flipping into cryptocurrency? I mean, I'm for it, right?
Actually,
I'm for
not
it.
a joke. It's happening.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm for it, right? Because it's gonna make our value of our cryptos go up.
Yeah, people are donating a lot of money to Kiev.
Yeah.
Actually in Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, eGold, things like that. Like they're actually donating with cryptocurrency because a lot of banks got frozen, halted.
Yeah.
So they have to use somehow, because not to mention also badass of the day, right? Because we talk about badasses.
No, we
Right.
we have Bam.
It's
Badass motherfucker of the week.
Bam for the week for sure. There's a couple people. For one, the Ghost of Kiev.
Yes, sir.
Ghost of Kiev. I believe it's 6 confirmed kills.
6-0, baby. 6-0
within the first few days.
Bro,
is it propaganda? Maybe. We don't know if he's 100% real. Zelensky has said yes, but who knows? But realistically, if we see, he is potentially the first ace in over 60 years, which is nuts to think about, because I mean he's necessary to be an ace. But realistically, like, keep an eye out in the skies. We're rooting for you.
Yeah.
If it continues to get worse, we hope the Ghost of Kiev is still around.
Yeah.
Bro, but regardless,
that man is amazing. Whoever it is, man or woman, because we don't know. The Ghost of Kiev.
We don't know.
Like, kudos to you. You are fucking amazing.
So an ace apparently is earned after 5 or more kills, confirmed kills.
Damn, so man, he got it on the first day.
Let's see. Oh, just to send, Warner Bros., the Walt Disney Company, and Sony Pictures said Monday, so earlier today, that they would pause the release of their films in Russia. Each studio has significant upcoming releases that have been set to debut internationally in the coming weeks. The Batman, one of the year's most anticipated films, launched Friday in North America and many overseas territories, including Russia. Sounds like that's not going to happen for Russia.
That was last week then. Because last Friday,
the Batman came out on Friday.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Comes out this Friday.
No, it came out last week.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's coming out this week.
I could be tripping, but I was gonna watch it last week.
No, I was like, you wouldn't go into an empty theater.
And I ended up having to get a refund on my tickets because I couldn't make it.
I was like, I'm pretty sure it was this week coming out. It's coming out on Thursday, like midnight. Yeah, it comes out this week.
Oh, well, fuck. What did I buy tickets for?
You didn't even go.
I probably bought Twilight tickets. I'm not gonna lie.
Shout out Robert Pattinson.
Shout out Twilight. We got a Twilight Batman.
What was I gonna say? Another band for the week. Shout out to Elon Musk, CA the dog's favorite individual. What's it called? So Elon actually, when the internet went out and they knocked down the internet, basically Elon Musk sent a lot of the Starlink satellites directly to bring back internet to the country of Ukraine. So you could actually see them in the sky. If you're looking, you can see all the satellites moving like that.
Yeah.
And it's so cool.
That's
so
pretty
neat.
Fucking cool. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Shout out to Elon Musk, man.
And shout out to the people fighting in Ukraine as a whole, because you're really showcasing not only the power that your country holds, but the dedication to your country, the true patriotism that you have for that country. It's beautiful to see.
Yes, to see celebrities, like
true
celebrities be like, all right, we're holding this shit down.
True heroes are being made in this war, realistically. Like, I don't know. I still think of the badass lady who like walked up to those Russian soldiers and was just like she was just talking. She's like, "Why are you here? Get out of my country!" And she goes like, "Here, I have these sunflower seeds for you." She's like, "You hold them and put them in your pocket, so that way at least something grows when you're laying in the ground." And I was like,
Holy
"Oh my!"
shit.
I got fucking
Who said
chills.
that? I didn't hear
That
about
was
that.
yeah. It was. I'll send it to you. It was this like Ukrainian woman that walked up to these Russian like soldiers, and she's like,
Holy
"Here, take these
crap.
sunflower seeds, so that way at least something grows when you're laying in the ground.
Dude, I'm telling you,
You're not
man,
supposed to be here. You came to
Ukrainians
my
are
country."
badass.
Yeah.
Like I honestly feel like Russia underestimated them.
Yeah.
Like they might not have the numbers to hold
That we
them
agree
down
on.
forever, but they are some badass people.
Depending on what happens next in terms of relief that Russia will receive, depending if they do receive it from their allies,
Yeah.
we may see some increase in fighting. And I think they will eventually take Ukraine, realistically.
So earlier there was a report that Russian advances on Kyiv have slowed down, but the Pentagon estimates Russian forces are roughly 16 miles outside Ukraine's capital.
So they're
So
getting closer and closer, basically.
yeah, they're getting closer, but they've slowed down. But they're resupplying, like we saw today in the news. You know, they had a 40-mile convoy going with gas and food and supplies because
Yeah.
they ran out. So,
Yeah.
like I said, there might be a chance where the Ukraine catches them slipping and fucks them up.
Could be, but realistically,
The scary part is that they're resupplying, and Canada is also sending weapons to the Ukraine. A peaceful people,
sending maple syrup.
dude. Canada's got their own problems too, though.
Canada's dealing with a lot of their own shit right now. They really don't need to be involved in anything. They're gonna get toppled.
Yeah,
Canada is an example of someone who's looking very weak right now.
yeah.
Trudeau is not shown to be a strong leader.
That's so crazy how he started seizing bank accounts to the protesters. That is wild.
He did the exact same thing that they would do for a terrorist, right? Terrorist organization.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know.
Maybe
We
he
won't talk about
talks
that 'cause
with
it's like
Putin.
we won't talk about that because it's not directly related. But
It's still world news, man. It's still world
we'll
news.
see what happens the next few weeks. Though, moral of the story, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Things could get really ugly, or things could. I can guarantee you, if Russia forfeits the war and they don't take Ukraine, crypto's going hell up.
Probably, dude. Probably.
It's gonna go fucking nuts.
Just think about the NFTs are gonna come out of it if Russia gives up.
Oh my god, it's classic.
Like, do you remember those decals back in the day where it was the kid pissing like on your favorite sports team? If Russia gives up, then we're about to make some stickers like that.
Be a fucking unicorn pissing on Stalin.
That would be even better.
God damn.
Oh man, Russia, please don't cancel us.
But goddamn, I guess like that. I guess moral of the story is that's pretty much really all we have. Huh? That's pretty much all we kind of wanted to talk about. So we got something from Alan really quick. The White House, along with the European Commission, France, Germany, Italy, and the United Kingdom of Canada, announced Saturday evening that they would expel certain Russian banks from SWIFT, the high-security network that connects thousands of financial institutions around the world, pledging to collectively ensure that this war is a strategic failure for Russia President Vladimir Putin. So yeah, I mean that's what they're doing. I mean, just to go over it, I mean that's really kind of what we're pretty aware of is that they've worked together to basically cut them off.
Yeah,
cutting the U.S. dollar from all of that.
Dude, I'm telling you that Russia's not going to make it out of this in
GMI
in their favor. I don't think it's going to work in their favor. I feel like I said, I could be completely wrong, right? I'm wrong a lot of times. I said Elon Musk was retarded one time, but
he had Asperger's.
He has Asperger's, which I was kind of right, but I was wrong. But I was also right.
Not the same thing.
But I don't know. I feel like Russia is gonna spend the resources they have, and they're not gonna be able to back up what they started.
Yep.
I feel like the Ukraine really threw them for a loop, where they thought they were gonna steamroll them, and they couldn't. The Ukraine fought with heart. That's the other thing. The thing we really didn't talk about. A lot of Russian soldiers, they're not there because they want to fight.
Yeah.
Team morale is not there to take over a country. So I feel like that also has a big play in it. The scary thing is that Putin is Putin. He has all this power and likes to swing it like he has a huge dick. And right now, it seems like it's really small on a cold night. And I feel like he's
Let's just hope he's
slipping.
not a grower.
Probably has a micro penis the way he's acting right now. Activating the nukes. Come on now.
I mean, I guess my thought process is like at the end of the day, final thoughts. Be very aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
If you're not, we did our thing in the morning or earlier today talking about a viewer discretion, but realistically, you need to be paying attention to what's going on right now. I'm sorry, you cannot hide from what could potentially be happening. It's just not. It's not okay. Like you have to be paying attention to what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
Or it's going to pummel you.
Yeah, I agree. You got to stay woke. You got to stay up to date on things and don't get overconfident. I mean, you never know what happens, right?
View multiple news sources, please. Don't listen to fucking Fox News or fucking CNN for that matter. They're both fucking stupid.
Just watch both of them. You'll get the idea. Whatever they're against, that's what's happening.
Yeah, best way to put it. When you see people like Tucker Carlson praising Vladimir Putin, that's a problem.
Yeah. All right.
But anyways,
are those your final thoughts?
Those are my final thoughts. So thank you guys for listening.
Hold on. Before we move on, we should have 2 minutes of a moment of silence for the Ukraine. I feel like we should pay our respects, and we are praying for them. And I think 2 minutes is or 1 minute. I think 2 minutes.
I was gonna say 2 minutes is a long time, but
all right. We'll give them 1 minute. 1 minute of a moment of silence, and we'll probably play some background. No, we'll give them a full minute of moment of silence. I think that's the least we can do to show our respect for you.
Yeah, and then for our audio listeners, we'll put "Proud to be an American" in the background.
No, we're playing Toby Keith.
Yeah,
red, wine, and blue.
Oh, the red, wine, and blue.
All right, ready?
All right, let's go ahead and do the moment of silence. 3, 2, 1.
All right. Hold on, Kyle. I accidentally muted you, and I don't know how. Oh! I pressed it too many times.
All right, I'm back. Okay, so I guess the way to put it, I don't want to pitch social media today. It doesn't feel right. Especially after that. Take it easy, guys. Stay safe out there. Stay informed. May God bless us all. May God bless Ukraine. And we'll see you guys next time.
Pray for Ukraine. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We appreciate you. Bye.